Good morning everybody and welcome into another very special video. Today we're joined by another amazing guest, this time being Joseph from his handle Faron Bricks, known across the community for his wonderful Zelda mocs, but most specifically his giant Hyrule Castle that was shown at Brickfair, Virginia in 2015. We've done our research, but welcome Joseph, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you both for take the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Not at all. I mean, it's our honour. I think we speak for Hylian as well when we've been, obviously following your mocs for a long, long time, and I think they were a big inspiration in our own journeys through this community. Which,
Thank you. Thank you.
May be scary to see. I think it's been a long time, 9 years. It's flown by.
Yeah, it really has. I was thinking about it the other day that I have some things that I'm working on. And I was like, oh, it's almost been 10 years and quite a
Wow.
while. Quite a while.
Well, of course, we got the magnificent, beautiful news that we're getting the Deku set, which is awesome. We've been wanting this for like how long? 20 plus years, perhaps, from the research we've done
Yeah.
for this documentary. What was your introduction to Lego Legend of Zelda? As in, I'm sure as kids or as younger people, we've grown playing Lego, and in our teen years, perhaps we got into Legend of Zelda, and that thought in our head that crossed like, oh, what if I build something from this game out of Lego? How was your introduction to that?
My interest in Zelda actually came before my more keen interest in the Lego hobby. Um, Growing up, my dad would always play Ocarina of Time. I was too young to have any skill at it or be able to play it, so my dad would play it and I would just watch him. So I loved, Nintendo, The Legend of Zelda, high fantasy, all of those sorts of things. And my introduction to Lego, it started when I was pretty young as well, but I never had like a intrinsic fixation with it until probably a few years after. Um, but the two really combined for me um, in about, let's see, it was probably like 2013 for me. I was kind of in like the midst of, at that point, now at the end of my dark ages from the Lego hobby. And I had seen a builder online who had built this like beautiful, medieval town. And it really restarted my interest in Lego and using it as more of a artistic medium rather than just a toy. Um, and from that, I immediately wanted to go back into building Castle, which very quickly went into building Legend of Zelda themed builds. Um, Around the same time, Lego Kuso, which was the precursor for Lego Ideas, someone had submitted a Lego Legend of Zelda project. And that is where I really first got integrated into the prospect of a fully fledged official Lego Legend of Zelda theme, which we now have, well, at least one set, maybe not a theme, but a set. So
To interject there,
yeah.
I'm
Hey,
quite familiar with the early days of Ideas. Was there any idea, do you at all remember which project it was?
Ooh, okay. I I don't remember the name of it, but I remember it was stylized after Twilight Princess. If I recall, in the early days there were like two big ones. One of them was very Ocarina of Time
The
focused.
West Talbot
The
Islands
other,
encounter.
yes, and the other one was the Twilight Princess one.
I do know the
And
one you're thinking of. It got to 10k in the end, but was
Yeah,
yes,
the renders were beautiful.
oh, they were all incredible. They were incredible. Um, I I'm more of a fan of the style of Twilight Princess, so I'm more leaned towards that kind of grittier olive green rather than bright green kind of vibe. Yeah,
It's so cool to hear you
that's what I
say that
really
with the
connect
color
to.
names. Sorry, it's
The color names, yeah,
specifically because we
we've
refer
had
to them
canon
as yeah.
so many colors,
Mm-hmm.
So you said
right?
2013. Was that make your castle build your first real convention experience then as well?
It was. Let me think. I'm trying to think of it. My display of Hyrule Castle was my second convention I'd ever gone to. The the way that the Hyrule Castle came to be, which those of you, I don't know if you're gonna put up an image or whatever, but I think it's like a 5 foot by 5 foot by, I think like 5.5, something like that, foot model of Hyrule Castle, inspired by the Hyrule Castle from Twilight Princess. There are some key differences, and I've learned my lesson from saying it is a direct replica, because people will point out inaccuracies, and it's not necessary. I'm aware. I built it.
Agree.
So I really wanted to build it. I did not think I had the chops to do it. I just gotten reintegrated into the hobby, very elementary as a builder, and I had reached out to some like really superstar builders who were builders for hire. You could commission them. I had no clue of the value of a commission or the price of the scale of the build I wanted. At that point, I was sending out emails to people saying, hey, I want to do this commission. I want it this big. At that point, I wanted it even bigger. And I said my budget was like $500, which will get you nothing. $500 will get you nothing. But I didn't know this at the time. It'll get you that set. It'll get you a Deku tree set. But at the scale I wanted, but the scale I wanted, it was not happening. So everyone ignored me. But I finally found a builder who was willing to train me, kind of saw me as like a protege apprentice kind of situation. And we worked on bringing the Hyrule Castle to life. My first year at Brick Fair, Virginia, I had brought a micro-scale Hyrule Castle. It's probably about like this big. I had also brought a linked treehouse from Twilight Princess, the one in Ordon Village. And then I took a break. There was a hiatus for the project. I had gone to college. The other builder, Sean, had moved to the West Coast. And I was kind of still a pretty elementary builder at the time, very self-conscious about bringing the rest of this enormous build to life that was nowhere near done. So I spent the next year, like spring break, winter break, and then summer break, finishing it and then bringing it to Brick Fair, Virginia in 2015. So second show, third year in the hobby.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that small scale castle I see, it went a long way, because just seeing your Instagram here, you do have a picture of the Breath of the Wild castle around the same scale, right?
Yes, the Breath of the Wild castle was for a contest I did, I think it was 2 winters ago, called Brixcalibur. The theme was, I think it was either an 8x8 vignette or a 12x12 vignette, I don't recall. And as someone who tends to build at pretty large scale, vignettes are not my strong suit. So I immediately went to, how can I build something that has a level of scale, but within the confines? So I went micro scale, and that's where the small Breath of the Wild castle comes from. It's somewhere in my house. It's like packed away somewhere. I quite like that build.
Somewhere.
Nice.
So right, so so the castle was like your big open grand thing, right? When laying it down in construction, what was your thought process? 'Cause you did mention that it was like how many base plates? 15?
It was, I think is it 6?
I don't know
It
the
might be-
maths
Wow,
on it,
that's
unfortunately. I know
It
you
might be-
said
it
broke
might-
into 4 sections, and it was 40 sections
Yes.
of castle, but I don't know the breakdown
Yes.
numbers.
I think the base plates were, it was either 2x3 or 3x3 or 4x3 each section. I don't remember. It's been so long, and it's been torn apart for years.
Oh, it is gone
unfortunately.
then. Oh no.
History has been lost.
It is
been lost.
gone. It is gone.
Oh.
One day I'll rebuild it, but
Someday.
yeah, someday.
Did you have a parts
But your
estimate?
question was the footprint. What was that?
Did you have a parts estimate for it at all?
Oh, absolutely none. Absolutely none. The only part that I recall any semblance of the number was that there were thousands and thousands of click hinges. Because that was what created most of the shape. It's a mostly snot castle, all held together by click hinges. Yeah. And I ordered, I think it was like 11,000 of each side of the click hinge.
Ouch.
That I can imagine that.
You were
Bricklink car.
dedicated.
That would
The
hurt.
dedication.
Yeah, if anyone needs click hinges, write me a DM on Instagram and I will send you a pick-a-brick cup full of them. I have so many to this day.
Oh, that's a great story. It's that kind of stuff that you don't get to hear in the short form interviews. I just love it. I love stuff like that because it's stuff that other builders can relate to so much as well. Just like when you think, oh, it's only like 200 apart, and then you look and it's like 5p per thing on Bricklink. And being in the UK, we have a smaller Bricklink margin, so if I'm not shipping internationally, I get into such like panics with Bricklink because you just don't have the quantity.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
I think the other high in quantity parts would have been the 2x2 tiles. I got quite a lot of those. I don't know if at least my local Lego brand retail stores don't do it in years. Back in the day, instead of getting by pick-a-brick cup, you could order by a box. And they don't do that anymore, or at least they tell me they won't do it anymore. Maybe they're just picking on me. But I used to buy like boxes of the 2x2 tiles.
Yeah.
So quite a few of those, and the the roofs are all 1x6 and 1x8 blue tiles, and those came out. Lego had done a promotion where if you bought like X amount of dollars, I don't remember, you got a free pick-a-brick cardboard box, very similar to actually the pick-a-brick packaging they use now, but it was like a holiday exclusive. It was a little takeout box. And I had collected so many of those, and then I went to the store and I just packed them full of those 1x plates. I also I distinctly remember I was sick when I went and picked them up. I got sick at the mall.
Guaranteed, yeah. Just it has to be, isn't it? It's exactly remember the moment you did it. That's wonderful.
Yep. Making an octagon is quite a flush octagon is remarkably difficult. I figured out how to do it to the level I wish I could have. But so there are some weird overhangs where I could see it kind of looking slopey and ski-like, me trying to and failing at kind of beveling those edges.
Oh no! I mean, the end result was fantastic, for sure. I was going to ask. We're going to ask about a couple of the scenes. I noticed when they go past in the video, you've got the treasure chests up there. I assume that is the boss key chest and like the two chests that are on the peaks of the castle.
I think the actual boss key, I don't remember where it is in the actual Twilight Princess castle.
I know there's a small key, or there's something out on that balustrade because it's where the the thing and
the cannon scene and yes. Originally, the idea of those chests, and it never came to fruition, and it is something I'd still like to do at some point. And if someone takes the idea, you're welcome to it because I've taken a decade. It's yours. Where having it so that way when the chests open, there's like a Raspberry Pi or like an Arduino or something, and it does a light sensor, and it would turn on the light and play the sound. Like the da-da-da-da.
That's awesome.
That's something I wanted to do and have all the chests filled, but I didn't finish the castle until the morning of Brick Fair, so I had no chance to do that.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Actually, this is a great story. I've never told it. You two will have the exclusive to it.
Please. Next Tuesday, I figured out the VIP treatment.
The night of Brick Fair, I was distraught because I did not like I didn't like the castle. I didn't like how it looked. It wasn't perfect. Nothing you ever build is going to be. But in that moment, I wanted it to be perfect, and it wasn't. And I had my family helping me. They were building all the roof pieces. Most of the castle had been done, but the top floor, which is like the throne room area, that had not been finished yet. I was building that the day of. And the top roof, which is 4 cone roofs, and then they come into one very tall cone in the center. And I had no clue how to do that. I was panicking. I was in tears. I was so upset. And my parents, who are incredibly supportive of my Lego hobby, and were at the time, they gave me tons of space in their house. They gave me money to help pay for this build. Not a lot. I wish it was more. It would have been great. But I was crying. I was so upset. I'm like, I'm not going. I was throwing a fit. I'll admit it. I was like, I'm not going tomorrow. This thing, it looks terrible, blah, blah. And my mother got so mad at me. And she was like, you've been complaining about this thing for 2 years. You're finishing it. I was like, I think it was like And she's like, go to your room. She was so angry with me. She was like, go to your room. And I stomped off, just livid at her. I like got in my car and drove off to like go get McDonald's. And then I didn't want to work on it, and I was being a bratty teen, and I like got home super super late, and I had come home, and my mom had figured out the math to do the roof for me.
Wow, the
Shoot.
Lego.
The math, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, she had figured out the math of how to do the center roof piece, and she's like, I was like, how did you do that? She's like, it wasn't that difficult. She's like, I'm pretty sure if you just stopped complaining for like 5 minutes and actually sat down and worked on it, you could have done it. But yeah, I was working on it the day before, and it wouldn't have gotten done unless my parents gave me some hard love.
Oh,
It would have been another year.
Oh, I just the troubles that come with a big model for conventions, right?
Oh yeah.
The transport as well, I assume.
Yeah, the transport was interesting. I ended up bringing it to 2 shows. I brought it to Brick Fair, Virginia, and then a couple months later, I brought it to Brick Fair, New Jersey. And the first time I brought it, I was very, very precious. Everything was bubble wrapped, saran wrapped in its own thing. And I was super, super careful with its transportation. I drove way under the speed limit. And it got there like 95% okay, built it. At that point, I had packed, after the show, I had packed it all up, not nearly as careful, drove home, and it was like still 95% there. So the next show, I just kind of like threw it in my and drove it, and it got there okay. It came apart in lots of parts, as I mentioned in the video, and I think by that nature, once it was in all those segments, you could treat it with relative ease.
Yeah.
You would get lots of like little tiny pieces plinking off, but it was nothing you could just like put together. There was no major structural breaks or anything like that. It was just little roof panels popping off that you would just have to click back in, or there were 2x2 plates always plinking off all over the place. So just that kind of stuff. It wasn't horrendous to teleport. Besides the scale itself took up a lot of room.
That's nice because you hear these horror stories.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I have had bigger horror stories with much smaller creations.
I can imagine.
Oh
yeah.
no.
Yeah, that one was built. I think part of the reason why it wasn't as bad as it could have been is I was so scared of it breaking. I built it incredibly sturdy from the onset. And then builds that are smaller, I just tend to think they won't be as much of an issue, so I'm not careful from the initial, onset of the project, and then they suffer and fall apart for it.
As someone that builds smaller, and I just did my first con where I sort of cling filmed everything and tried to be really, really careful. I don't think I could let go like you did for your second one, so taking a castle like that. I think the next time it's going to be even more, because I'm just like, I don't want it.
It's a bad habit, so good for you on not getting into that habit. I teleport a lot of builds for a lot of friends, and I should be more careful, especially with other people's builds. I just kind of throw them in my car, drive around. I'm like, it'll get there. It'll figure itself out. This is a bad habit. Yeah.
Rebuilding
it's something, but it's a bad habit that you shouldn't have. Right. Absolutely, as long as it arrives. You didn't do like if I'm driving it for you, it'll get there. I just can't promise how well it will get there.
That's a wonderful story, by the way. That I could imagine just the adventures, the fun stories behind that. Right. So when it came to the castle, from some of the pictures I've seen online, because yes, we did our research. There was your Link figure. So that Link figure, by the way, how do you construct the hat? Because that was extremely interesting.
Ooh, okay. So if I recall, it's somewhere in my Lego room somewhere. If I recall, it's a Lego cape that has been folded so that the holes that normally go around the neck, they go through the arms, and then so that way there's an extra. It's like almost like a t-shirt. There's something that you can anchor here, and it is the old style 3-leaf grass piece. and then 2 of the prongs are down the back of the cape, and then the 3rd prong goes through a cone, and then there's a rubber band shoved in the cone, and then it's a green night visor, like, pressure fit onto the back of the minifig blonde hair.
That must be so fiddly.
Sometimes I think the most fiddly part is that sometimes the cone falls off, but the pressure fit's pretty good, and the grass stays in pretty good. You can it's not like you can handle it relatively well, and it's pretty easy to put back together once you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's how it goes together.
That might be the most unique one I've ever heard of. Hylian, how does that compare to some of the ones you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, we like we said later, we headcanon so this set has driven us crazy because we've headcanon so many pieces. Like this hair, Link's hair from Breath of the Wild, that is medium nougat. Twilight Princess, his hair is dark tan. No, to Link, his torso is supposed to be bright green. We've done so many of these things and gathered so many pieces from across the years. Like the pirate bandanas, those were very common with Link figures. The sportsman hats, those were very prominent as well. I guess it was Brick 101s who really changed the whole scheme of it with finding ways to connect a hat to the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, made it.
Yeah, mine was a cone and a piece of grass.
Yeah. And of course, we have to thank the Lord of the Rings theme for all the Zelda purists. Change the game.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zelda's hairpiece is Elrond's hairpiece, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that lines up. Yeah, one of the best ones for it, especially for TP as well. Like if you're
going because it has the dual and then the gold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Although I think it had created problems because for Breath of the Wild Zelda, I've chosen the yellow color, like pure yellow. So when they did bright flame yellowish orange, it's taken me a lot to get used to. The same as the gold it's been some interesting choices with those figures.
Yeah, it's tricky. Certain stuff I get having to make concessions. I know that the designers are under, a lot of, restrictions in how they do things. I think that they made great decisions. I mean, if I could design like the minifig from scratch, it probably wouldn't look any better. So I commend the folks who did it.
Absolutely. They are basically near perfect. It's just there's things you don't expect, right? You build up an image of what you're expecting for 10 years,
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh, what is this? What am I looking at? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the gold hair piece. We've gone on several rants this week concerning that hair piece, because it's straight up just pearl gold. And for example, you want to give Link the bow of lights, you give him one of the golden bow pieces, and like it's because you got this gold hair and then like this gold item, and I was so curious about it. I had to do it myself. I straight up got the hair piece in gold for my Purest Link figure, and it's grown on me so much since that day. He is gorgeous. I love him.
I remember. I'm not sure if it was in a set. It might have been. I think it was like the pearl gold crew cut piece. And the first time I saw it, I was very surprised that they used pearl gold for a blonde on a minifigure. But I think it kind of works. I think it gives it a luminosity and a sheen. I think it kind of gives Link a kind of like kind of like a otherworldly like hero kind of vibe. It's not based in reality. Yeah, he's something special. Yeah.
I love the texture it can add.
That's how I kind of see it.
With the marbling effect.
That's a good take.
That's going to be really exciting to see. Or that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
So aside from you mentioned previously the Link's house from Ordon Village, you did mention that. Because for us at least, and for other people's as well, because I believe yours, Hyrule Castle, was the first one that went like extremely viral, or like because you had magazines, you had that Beyond the Brick video that was very big around the time. First, this is the big castle. Everyone was like going crazy over it. I mean, same as I. So you did leave a big name amongst Lego and Zelda fans alike.
So I specifically remember one of the creations for charity streams when they were reminding you of the numbers on the video.
I still chat with the Hanlons quite often. They're good friends of mine. I was speaking with Joshua a couple weeks ago at Brickworld Chicago, and I was lamenting the fact that he gives builders a 1 million view brick.
Mm-hmm.
If your video gets 1 million views, I don't get featured all that often on their channel. But none of my videos have 1 million views, and I was kind of poking at him because he knows I want one, but I have to earn it. I get it, and I was kind of poking him. I said, back in the day, if you looked at your your highest viewed video, I was like number 4 for years. I was like, I started, dude. You'd be nothing without me. He's like, that's not going to get you anything. He's like, I'm still not giving you a brick. So
it would take a large mock for that one.
Yeah. It's very interesting what hits the algorithm and what makes things work. It's not I'm not a social media content creator, so I'm not aware of all the nuances. But you just have to hit it right, and
it's changed so much as well. It's changed
a lot
all the time.
Incredibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I jumped into your question there.
Oh, don't worry. We this is how we work. We go all over the place.
We're not
right.
professional at all.
So yeah, not professional at all. Amateur interviewers. That's her new name. Right. So the castle, that was your first very big thing, and you also mentioned you had the Link's house. What other smaller Zelda things have you built throughout the years?
I did a Telma from Twilight Princess. She's the barkeep in Hyrule Castle Town. There's a scene where she takes her wagon from Castle Town to Kakariko Village, and I built her little wagon. Not my greatest build, but hey, it's all right. That one I built a. There was a short stint where I was planning on building the Hyrule Castle from Wind Waker. So I had reset. I was like, everything I was doing was Twilight Princess, and I recalibrated, and I was like, I'm going to go full on Wind Waker. And I only got one build in there before I abandoned the project. And that was, I think his name is Zunari.
Yeah, Zunari.
With the trade sequence. So I built it's inspired by his shop. If you look at it, I took immense artistic liberties. This was in the peak of mid 2010s crumbly castle where everything was crumbling apart and falling and gravity defying. I did not have the skill to make it as crumbly as I would have liked it to have been, but it looks very little like the game, but the form is there. It's a wall with a shop, a guy wearing a blue fur-lined cloak. You get the gist of it. There's an arch and a tree.
It's 100% recognizable. You've just kind of
thank you.
The graphical fidelity in a way. You've taken it out of the cell shading and put it into style.
That's what I was kind of going for. My style is always that I particularly feel an affinity and love for is Twilight Princess, Dark Souls, those kind of games and franchises. So a lot of my builds, regardless of what the initial graphics look like, I tend to pull them more towards that realism kind of dark and gritty look. I think and then I built this one's very recent. It was 3 weeks ago. I built a Super Smash Bros. N64 Hyrule Castle stage. That's what it is.
That one, yeah. We saw it.
The video, and I didn't realize it was you because obviously you weren't there at that point or something. But it wasn't until I saw the post on Instagram that I was like, "Oh, that's a fun connection." Yeah. That was me. They had
the folks who were running it had posted about it, and then I threw my hat in the ring. And I remember during the signups, because the initial people who had formulated the project, they got first pick, of course, and then they had opened it up to the folks who had got invited on wave 2, which I was a part of, and I was scrambling because I really wanted to do the my initial plan was to just build Bayonetta, do one of the character builds, which I did end up doing, but then someone was poking me and you should do the Hyrule Castle, it's calling you. It's calling for you because they had a list of the stages that they wanted built, and no one had signed up for Hyrule Castle. So I was like getting poked. They're like, you should do it. You should do it.
You'll have them all
And
built at some
again,
point. You'll have that one, the Wind Waker one, the Twilight Princess one, and then
I
the one
that'd be
I'll
quite
mention it
cool.
later.
I think that would be quite cool to have all of them. I do plan to, at some point, I do intend to rebuild the Twilight Princess one. It's still, I mean, it's in horrific shape. I, I have it's a very bad habit. Don't, if you're watching this, do not develop this habit. I have like these giant bins. Once I'm done displaying a build, I throw it in the bin and just shake it around and then break it. And then I just like, and then it just sits there. So I have the bins because I'm so bad at sorting. I still have the bins from 9 years ago where the original Hyrule Castle is. They're just sitting in broken bins
And
with like
you don't
10,
raid from
10
them?
years. I do sometimes. Like sometimes I'll pour out the bins. I'll lay out like a, if I know there's a part that I have a ton of, and I'm like, oh, I used that in a build like 7 years
Hinge
ago. It's in
plates.
one of those bins, hinge plates. I'll lay out a blanket and then I'll take one of those giant bins and just pour it out on the floor and I'll sift through it. So that's the only sorting that gets done from those bins. It's like my biggest shame in my Lego hobby is these massive bins of all of my mocs from over the years just shoved in there. It is kind of fun though, because when I'm looking for a specific part, I could see like, oh, this is a build from this and this is a build from this. It makes
That
it
is
for a
cool.
cool like trip down memory lane.
Yeah, especially with such like recognizable sections for builds as well. Just like, oh, there's just a turret
Yes.
in here from that one, or I'm assuming you probably still have the treehouse, but like just bits from that you'd recognize
Yes.
things from across the years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the treehouse is one of I keep very few of my builds. The treehouse I have kept. I took off the front chunk. The build has a large like empty space in the front, so I ripped off like half the base, but the tree proper I still have.
It feels like a
It's
keeper.
sitting in.
It does
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
one of the.
something, yeah.
It's the first build I did as an AFOL. I mean, I was like 17, I think, when I started, but close enough. When I exited
Close
my, Dark Ages, wanted to get reintegrated into the hobby. It was my first build I ever did, so I've kept it. I've just played it at a few shows. Even now, it still sometimes goes on rotation. So
Yeah,
not very often, but sometimes.
that's good. Yeah, I was going to mention the Smash one as well, but thinking about that outside of your Zelda mock portfolio, is there anything wider that you've been super proud of that you think shows your skills as a builder coming on in the last decade at all?
I was chatting with a friend of mine, Simon Liu, Cymox. He's a sci-fi builder. He does lots of like mechs and space builds. And I was chatting with him about my skill set over the last year and like growing as a builder. And it's like I don't think I've gotten any better. And he's like, that's a lie. He's like that's not true. Um, so I took some time to look back at some of the builds that I was particularly proud of. I did these. It was a series of two. These black and white. It's a 3D relief image, but it makes a 2D image from the game Persona 5. It's the main protagonist as well as Anta Kamiki. They're quite large.
Very cool.
I think they're like 16 by 20 inches, and they're in these like big shadow boxes. I'm very very proud of those. I'm more proud of. Interestingly enough, the first one I did was Anta Kamiki because I think she had like a better look to her. I thought she was a more interesting looking character. That one I'm more proud of, even though it was the first one that I did. The second one was far easier to build. It's a far less complex build. I learned how to make them a lot faster than the first one. The first one, I think from the time, a lot of my builds, I'll start, put them away for months, pick them back up. Took from like the day I decided to the inception of the project to the day it was finished, I think like a year and a half. Joker, I think it took me 2.5 weeks. So, and they're not that dissimilar of builds, but those ones I'm very proud of. Most recently, for this past holiday season, I built a gingerbread castle that I'm also quite proud of. That one was a lot of fun. It's something again I've been thinking about for a while. I wanted to do. I just had to wait for all of the medium nougat parts to come in. So Those ones I'm pretty proud of.
Color weighting is a problem for real life builds, I find. But the gingerbread house was lovely. I was really excited for the 2019 set. Was my most wanted thing for a winter village since since Series 11 way back in like 2013. So I was really, really excited for that set. So every time someone does a gingerbread mock, I'm particularly invested in how they're going, because there's such a unique architectural style that we still don't see much of. I just think it's neat.
I remember. So the way that project came about is I saw this pen illustration that I thought looked like icing. And so I was like, oh, gingerbread castle. And I thought it was such a novel idea. I was like, no one's ever done this before. This is going to be so cool. And then I went to Brickworld like 3 months later, and someone had a massive gingerbread castle display with a working gingerbread train and a gummy bear fountain. I was like, well, dang it. The builder's name is Tim Lindy, incredibly talented builder. I ended up stealing. I did credit him his tree design. He did these like sugar cookie trees that were like incredible. And I was like, I can't do any better, so I'm just taking it and saying, hey, he built these. But yeah, it was such a fun build, and yeah, a few folks have done it, and now I saw I think it was coincidentally we had posted them a couple of days apart. Someone had done like a gingerbread rocket. That was quite cool.
Oh, nice. Right for the season as well. That's pretty. Yeah. No, it was a lovely build. Yeah, I wanted to ask about, you'd mentioned to me about your unfinished Breath of the Wild Hyrule Castle, which may be a sore spot, I imagine, because it's sat unfinished for so long. But,
interesting. Yeah. I love Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. So I had mentioned previously to you guys that I'd started the Wind Waker, or I decided I was going to do the Wind Waker Castle, and I packed away the Twilight Princess one, and I was like, okay, the next one is going to be Wind Waker, and I'd set a 3-year build limit on it. Like, it's gonna take me 3 years, and then I'm gonna have it done. And if I recall, did Breath of the Wild come out in 2017?
Yes. Maybe the third?
Yeah. No, so it was like I had started working towards like ruminating on the thought and doing some very, very preliminary planning. And then I thought the new Zelda game is going to come out. What if I like that castle more? What if it's a cooler design?
You probably did.
I absolutely did. I was like, I'm going to be so upset if I spend all this time and money working on the Wind Waker Castle just to fall in love with whatever they're working on now. Okay, this is kind of embarrassing. Funny story. I did reach out to Nintendo America and ask for pre-release images. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but it was a non-zero chance. What's
the harm in asking?
And yeah, and they said no.
They replied.
They said no.
That's rare.
Yeah,
that's rare.
They said no, and I got a copy of the game at release. That's what I got, but I'll take it. Take it.
Wait, that's something.
Yeah,
I've never.
It was something.
Yeah.
Hey.
But yeah, I was working on the Wind Waker one, the conception of it, and then I decided I'll just wait out, see what the new design is, and then Breath of the Wild came out, and I was like, this is the one. And then I was finishing up college at the time. That had to be my priority reluctantly. Then I had to, get a job, and then I moved out, all those kind of, real life things. And I was very slowly working on the build. Mm-hmm. And one of the main, you mentioned it's kind of a sore spot, and it is. I'm fearful of the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom castle.
As you should be.
It's so big. It is so magnificent, and I think there's very little margin for error. Uh-huh. One of the things that you could benefit from building old Hyrule castles is you never got that close to them most of the time.
There's never an interior
You see them.
either.
There's never, yeah. You never really see. They're from like a distance. They're a texture that's over there, and then you walk up, and all you see is the gate, and then you walk in. Twilight Princess, you saw a little bit more of. You saw like some of it, but most things are a texture, and they're far away, so you could make up a lot of things. The climbing mechanic and the open world concepts of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom allow you to crawl on every single inch of that structure, which means you either have to double down and create an exact, which is going to be an incredible feat, or you have to make concessions and decide what details are important to me, which details aren't important for me. And the castle is huge. It is a lot of rock work. So the biggest part that has held me from completing it, besides actually taking the time to work on it, is deciding the scope of what I want it to be. I've seen that you have decided you're doing the whole Monty. You're doing the island and everything, which is that is incredible, and I'm so excited to see it.
Yes,
I
decide to actually make it my priority.
yeah. I have decided to scale it back. I have not quite defined what portions I'm going to be doing, but it is not the entire island. I think that personally, the satisfaction and this is not true for everyone, I'm not saying this is true for you, the satisfaction I would receive from completing the entire island versus maybe something a bit smaller would not be worth the cost to me. I think the timeline is more important to me than the scale of the build. That's kind of where I'm at now. Mind you, I say that, and it's been 7 years. So,
what stage is it at the moment? Is it all real life, right? So there's no digital files or anything that exist like, pre-hand and stuff.
There are no digital files. No, I have actually started doing lots of digital building, but I normally do digital buildings for things that I have no clue what I'm doing with, or they're entirely new concepts, or I don't have the brick for. Castle, I have not enough to build Hyrule Castle, the new one, but I have a lot of brick for. So that one I'm doing like in real life. Right now, I have the first floor done
Of the Sanctum.
of the Sanctum.
Oh, the throne room. Oh, that's awesome.
I'm
That's
so
sweet.
excited to get to that point.
Yeah.
I'll do anything to get there.
And one thing that is, and right now I'm on the ramp up period. I've probably spent on the last 7 years since I've decided to work on this project. I've maybe worked on it for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe 20. I have not spent the time that it needs because just life gets in the way, but it's now like my big priority. One of the things that I found lots of comfort in, and I hope that I can impart this comfort to you, a lot of it is it's the same thing over and over again. Yeah. Once you build one wall, you make it 4 times as tall, and then you spin it 8 times around, and then you have an octagon, and then you take that octagon, and then you...
Yeah.
So you just copy and paste it. So once you build one of them, it all comes together.
I made the promise I wouldn't use the copy paste functions in Studio, so I have an untextured version of the wall that I use, but then I texture them all by hand. So I don't know why I did this to myself, but there's a lot of rock work, but it's the interiors that are the fun part. And mapping those is what was really difficult. I wouldn't have been able to do it without a 3D model because you just can't place it, because stuff like the water pump room, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work in the game if they hadn't have blocked the passages off where there's destruction. I'm pretty sure they would collide with each other. And then just deciding what you want to do and then all the details. It's just, if it was my only project, I would be fine. But because I'm doing custom sets on the side, I say it's my main thing instead. There's no time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. You put a lot on your plate. My Lego hobby has been split with me being the ambassador of my lug and helping run a Lego user group. So that has taken up a lot of my focus. But I think now that I'm like 3 years into it, I kind of like know how to do it. And I can now start to really dedicate more mental effort into learning how to build that castle. So we'll see when it comes to fruition. I'm hopeful. We'll see. I just have to get another razor too.
It's limited by the money. That's what I love about designing digitally, although it does make me sad when it costs so much to bring them into real life, which I get excited about doing every time, but we can also that's an expensive hobby.
It is a very expensive hobby.
Out of the whole journey with the building the castle, the countless, like you said, managing the group, what was like the most meaningful part of like the whole Lego journey, or do you think it'll come some other time maybe? How's the future like? What's the most impactful moment so far?
One of the things that I've really enjoyed about the Lego hobby is when I became the ambassador of my community, I made a very concerted effort to expand the kind of events that we do. My lug has a lot of builders who build in a lot of different themes, and I feel like a lot of communities, a lot of like in-person lugs, they do big city displays, and that's what they do. My lug also loves our big city displays, but that's not. I personally don't build city, so I didn't find much enjoyment out of those type of collaborations. So one of the things that has been very, very meaningful to me are the events that I have helped create and foster. My community now does an event with the Smithsonian Institute where we do a annual spring festival, and that is a fantasy like fairy enchanted forest theme, which is not awesome. Something. Yeah, it's a great event that we do, and part of that is the members of the lug build, and then we display that. But then we also have a chance to give children an opportunity to have a free play experience with the greatest toy ever made. Yeah. So we bring all this brick, and all these kids can come for free and build. And then alongside, we have all the members of the community, all the AFOL builds, and then we continue the table so that way the public can display their builds alongside us, which I think gives them a big sense of pride to be part of a display in a fine art gallery, the Smithsonian Institute, which is quite a cool thing to say. And the response that we've gotten from those kind of efforts, my community, they really do mean a lot to me. So those kind of things really do mean quite a bit to me.
No, that's amazing. How did you get involved?
Yeah, that is amazing.
So the way that it happened is I actually did not realize that this place was a Smithsonian affiliate until like a few months ago. We've been doing this event for like a multitude of years, and I just learned about this, that's what they are. Up the road for me it's a fine art gallery, it's an art residency, and a sculpture garden. And they do this big spring festival that I used to go to when I was a kid. My family would go. And they had a call to the public at artists, and they said, hey, can you build like fairy houses? And I was like, oh, this could be something cool that the lug could do. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, would this be something that you're interested in? Their response was, yes, it's cool. However, these builds are left outside in the woods for about 3.5 months. And I knew that I didn't want to leave a build outside for 3.5 months. And I was pretty confident that no one in my community would want that either. So they offered us they're like, well, what we can do is we have like exhibition spaces. So we can offer you an exhibition space where you can display your builds as a community inside. And then at the end of the display period, the month residency is the kickoff for the spring festival, which is when the public comes and we do the big build event, and the public gets to present their builds alongside ours. So it naturally came to that, and now we do that display with them, and we do an annual holiday display with them, which is more community driven, where members of the community bring build, like not the Lego community, but the public bring Lego builds to create a giant holiday train display, which is quite fun.
So sweet.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. If there's stuff like that everywhere, like the world would be such a better place. I guess just to start wrapping things up. So bringing us to the date. What was the date?
2nd of February. Oh no, are you thinking the leak or the reveal? Because I know both.
Okay, let's start with the leak. Let's start with the leak.
2nd of
Let's start with
February,
the leak.
2023.
Were you? Yeah, were you familiar with a certain big survey leak that went that showed the what was it? It showed the Cinderella house. What else? Rivendell.
Rivendell,
Was it Rivendell? Yes.
I am familiar. Yes, I do. I'm not one who. That's a part of the Lego scene that I'm not very well integrated in. I don't seek out leaks or anything like that. I am not a frequent purchaser of Lego sets. I normally buy like from the Pick a Brick wall or the Build minifig. Those are kind of the services that I utilize, less so buying sets from a specific theme. However, as a ambassador of a Lego community, and I know not everyone is going to like this, one of the things that we're supposed to do is if we see a leak, we're supposed to report it. And then the report like database is very public. So I saw when I logged on to the Lego Ambassador Network one day, one of like the hot topics of the day was Lego Zelda leak. And like someone was reporting it, and I don't know if the intention of the reporting structure is to get people excited about the leaks and get more clicks, but it worked for me. I don't typically go in there and like go and dig and investigate, but that one I admit I did do. I saw someone post about it on there, and then I went and checked it out, and I was incredibly excited.
I personally wish we didn't have the leak culture, but this was just such a special circumstance in a sense.
Crazy day.
Crazy day. See. And also just from obviously being so connected with the company and stuff, it must have been a fascinating day for that report system, because obviously it's one of the biggest, I don't know, slips or mistakes they've had in a long time for information getting out there. And I imagine it was a pretty intense meeting at some point. Obviously I know you weren't there for that, but I can imagine how that went down in Billund.
It is interesting. Like, I'm not integrate. I'm not part. Like, they're not talking to me about the leaks or anything. But one thing that is quite interesting is the conversation that happens around the leaks, because there are some very common sources of them, and the conversation being, why aren't they combated more forcefully? But again, it's not part of the hobby that I'm necessarily incredibly involved in. So I'm sure it was a conversation between a lot of folks that did not go well. I'm sure it was an angry Zoom call. But I'm glad I wasn't on the receiving end of that.
But then I suppose fast forwarding to the actual date when we actually got to see images, just 2 months ago, towards the end of May. The date is escaping me. Yeah, how did that go?
I was thrilled. I think, if I recall, one of my friends had texted it to me to let me know, or maybe it was like in a Discord that I'm in, like someone did like a everyone ping, so I could look at it. I remember my first impressions were I was thrilled, incredibly happy that we have a Legend of Zelda set. I was puzzled why it was the Deku tree, I will admit.
I think so was everyone.
I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice. But I thought about it, and the most popular, like highest sales Zelda game, and the one that's currently, the most recent one, are Tears of the Kingdom, the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom kind of era of the game. Yeah, so they had to build something for that. And Ocarina of Time is if you build a Legend of Zelda build and it wasn't Ocarina of Time, people were going to be angry. Like the folks on like IGN and Kotaku, they were all going to be livid. So I think that a part of the decision to do the Deku tree was the logistics of how do we get a set that can be both Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and Ocarina of Time within the price range that we want to do. You can't do Hyrule Castle because making even one of those would be too big. There aren't many similarities because they take place, in like stylistically very different. The worlds are very different, so it's one of the very few through lines that you could utilize the same parts over two separate builds and two separate games. So once I thought about that, I was like, okay, it makes sense. And I was particularly thrilled that we got all the torsos, all of the Master Sword, Hylian Shield. Very, very thrilled. Yeah. I was very, very thrilled.
Yeah, that sounds just about right. So going in depth about the set, is there anything that you change, anything you'd like, anything that concerns you perhaps? Because of course we discussed the hair pieces and all that stuff. Is there thoughts on that?
So one thing that I particularly love is the baby Deku tree. Love that they added that. I think it's great. I think it's incredibly charming. I think it's such a fun detail. Yeah. Very thrilled. The thing that I commend the construction of the Koroks. I think is kind of interesting. I'm not sure if how widespread this habit has become in the Lego community, but at Brickworld Chicago, people hand out what are called Gujik trophies, and it's where it's like a little trinket that you like. Most of the time, it's brick built, and you put it on builds that you like. And for quite a while, I thought if I were to ever do a Gujik trophy, it would be a Korok, because it's something that is small, it can be replicable, and it is recognizable as a Legend of Zelda thing, which maybe not it's probably not relate to me much anymore because it's been a long 10 years. I think that ship has sailed for people contributing me in that. But I was going to do the Korok. That was going to be my Gujik trophy. And I never knew how to build it. They're so small. They're so organic, so they have to be like weird shape. They can't be blocky. I thought that the way that they were constructed was I couldn't think of a better way to do it. I think that it's just a very odd construction. I kind of think that maybe the scaling probably wouldn't be right, but maybe using those weird like dream like mushroom people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
we did consider
or like
at one point.
Yeah, or like the myconoid. I think it's like the same part that they use as the myconoids in the Dungeons and Dragons set.
Yes.
Because it has that like weird. It doesn't look like a tree, but it's a quadruped like stump thing. You could do it in like reddish brown or dark tan, throw a print on it, and then put a big leaf thing, and you would get the point.
That would be my choice for a Pikmin piece. The mushroom body.
Oh yeah. I could see that.
I see what you mean. They're all small woodland creatures, isn't it? It works really well.
Yeah. But I think that that would have made them too big, if I recall. They would have been like very out of scale.
It feels like choices were sort of made between scale and recognizability, and it seems like that instead of blowing them up and making them bigger, they decided to keep them small, but obviously lose your accuracy then. But I do appreciate everything's printed. I mean, I'm waiting for the first person to get 900 of them. That would be an interesting collection.
Yeah, maybe it'll show up on like Bricks and Pieces.
I'm hoping. I will do it if they end up on BAP. I don't want to go through the Bricklink like faff, but if they do end up on BAP, but I don't know. License prints.
That could be fun. Yeah. Or you could. Never mind. I was gonna say something, but I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, I'll say it. It's fun. There was this thing I remember it was a couple months ago that people would do where they would call like customer service and be like, my Korok's missing, and then for some reason, like the whatever part people were requesting, I think it was like a helmet.
Wasn't it Marvel Series 2 figures or something? I'm sure I saw people end up with buckets of Storm or something.
Yeah, you get like you ask for one part, but the SKU number from like the Lego factory means that you get all of these companion parts. So maybe maybe that's a scam someone can try and pull and not get caught.
Anything
I
for
don't know.
landed Koroks, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the dream. Is it
Yeah.
that you're
I'm
actually
just
going to
kidding.
be?
I don't endorse that. That's a joke. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
no, we don't endorse theft from company. No one's watching, I'm sure, but
No.
although they do get around, obviously. I saw your post. Obviously, I'm a subscriber to the Blocks magazine, so seeing your build featured in their 100 celebration, and then of course with a comment from the designer of Iron Knuckle Encounter as the ideas project, but now of course the designer of the Deku tree as well. That must have been a. You didn't know?
It's the same person.
Yeah, it's the same person.
Did not know.
No, you
That
didn't
is
know.
wild.
Really?
I've been spreading the
I
news, but
That
just
reaction was a beautiful. That reaction was perfect. Okay, that needs to be clipped. That was wonderful.
whoa. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. That's him. Wild.
yeah.
Good for him.
It's so
Good for
cool,
him.
isn't it? It's just perfect.
Full circle moment. Full
Yeah.
circle moment.
Yeah, that's if you have a set you want to do, if your Lego ideas thing was shot down, just start working for the company and work from the inside out.
Eventually they'll say yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point with that was to suggest is that like that must have been a nice moment in a sense, even if you didn't know he had designed the set at that point, but to have it recognized by designers. Has there been other mocks where people have contacted you from positions or people you've looked up to in the community?
Oh, absolutely. I've had, people who I look up to have reached out. They've said to me, things at shows. The situation with Blocks magazine, I was featured years ago in Blocks magazine when the castle first came out, and that I was very, very proud of. And then I was especially honored when they said that they wanted to do like the top 100 builds. Then I was told that they were going to be having Lego employees talk about the build, and that made me incredibly nervous, because in my pessimistic mind, I'm like, they're going to be speaking so highly of all the builds, and then mine, they're going to be like, it exists. That is something someone built. But no, it was very complimentary. It was very, very nice to see an appreciation for that build, especially after all this time. And yeah, there are instances, every now and then where a builder who I look up to tremendously will, share a little bit of love, and that's always great.
It's good for you.
Even like non Lego hobbyists, that occasionally happens, where someone of note will offer some sort of compliment, which it's quite nice.
That's the problem with being like a Nintendo builder largely, right? Is you don't have VAs to come and like congratulate you. Like some of the Star Wars builders I've seen get like,
Yeah.
their voice actors and stuff, see their builds, and it's this cool moment. We don't have that because no one's doing VCRs.
No. I the voice actress for Anta Kamaki, she mentioned once, I pinged her, I think it was like on Twitter, I think I like reached out to her and she was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I asked if like I could like go to, she had like a signing coming up and I was going to go see if she would sign it. She's like, oh my goodness, absolutely, I would love to do that. But then I didn't end up going because it was like too expensive of a trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite cool. But yeah, you're right. There's not many, if you're doing a Nintendo build, you're asking for like someone like way up there who lives in Japan. There's not like an American or an English voice actor. Yeah, you're asking like Miyamoto or Koji Kondo. Like, there's not many options.
Oh, it's just a funny question anyway. But sorry to sidetrack us from the tree at hand. Will it be a set that you are purchasing or intend to?
Yeah. I'd initially was like, oh, I'm going to pre-order it. And then my friend had texted me saying, hey, did you order? I was like, oh, I'm going to wait until my next paycheck because it's kind of expensive and I want to buy two so I can have one of each of them displayed. And then he's like, well, when you pre-order something, they don't charge you until it ships. I was like, oh, yeah. So then I pre-ordered two of them. So
right.
I can have both.
So I haven't done mine yet. I'm taking the risk. I want to be at the store day one, so I'm just going to go and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Or else I'm going to be in trouble, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's a great set. I'm really excited to have it. Realistically, I will probably only I'll probably end up building one and then I'll put the other one in storage and then eventually build it at some point later. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm going to build both of them and display them side by side. Probably not going to actually what's going to happen, but I can dream.
Be the cool way to do it, wouldn't it? Isn't it? It's nice. Yeah. I wish I was doing two, but sticking with one for now. Maybe if it goes towards its end of its life, I'll get a second copy. But for now,
Yeah,
I'm happy to take it apart and rebuild.
yeah, they're pricey.
Is there any of the two trees? Is there one that you like more in particular?
I prefer the Ocarina of Time tree.
It's the
I think.
Deku's
Yeah,
a cute detail there.
yeah. I think I
And
prefer.
the enemies as well.
Mhm.
I'm in
I
love
also
with the
think from
battles.
the yes, they're really really good. I also think from the actual game design, I think I like the Ocarina of Time one more. I the Breath of the Wild one, while I get what they were going for with like the roots becoming like the beard and the mustache, I think it kind of has an odd shape sometimes. Um, so I like the Ocarina of Time Deku tree more. Nostalgia definitely has a part in it, so I like that. That's probably the one that I'll be displaying it as. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'm still undecided, but I know
That's
Hylian's
it.
going for Breath of the Wild, but you have that connection with that game,
Yes.
especially. So,
Yeah, the big Breath of the Wild bias.
Mm-hmm.
it's
But this is what happens when you take wow, I don't know how long it's been. I don't know, several years making a Breath of the Wild stop motion. So that
Yeah,
attachment to want to use those pieces in certain animations is a must.
absolutely. Is Breath of the Wild your favorite of the Zelda games?
I would say yes, because truthfully it is. But then there's nostalgia blindness for Wind Waker, which was my first Zelda game.
Okay, okay. Yeah, for me, Twilight Princess all the way.
I'm the controversial one,
Sweet.
unfortunately.
That's a controversial one, but
I'm a
it's a
Skyward
good
Sword
game. You can't
lover.
complain.
Okay, that is
It's a choice.
actually it is a choice. I played that game relatively recently, and I think it got a bad rap.
It's nowhere near as
It's
bad as people say it is. It's still
yeah,
good.
I replayed it. It was fun. It
Yeah.
was fun.
That's something
I
you should do.
remember. I think one of the big issues, and it was very similar to what happened with uh, what was it? The jump between Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker. There was lots of backlash over the very cartoony style of Wind Waker. So then they pivoted to Twilight Princess because people wanted that more gritty route.
And then it went too
And
far.
then they went down to not down, but they went from super gritty to more cartoony with
Underground.
Skyward Sword. People got upset about that, and then they kind of like have equalized it with Tears of the Kingdom, I would say. But
Yeah. Although obviously that's the newest one to get the hate, or at least some of it.
mm-hmm.
It's a cycle.
Until the
It
next
happens.
title.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah, nerds having opinions. What's new?
Yeah, no, never gets any easier.
No.
So just moving to think about the future as we do wrap up our line of questioning, is there a dream character or minifigure that you would want to see if they were to do more sets?
Take off. I who would I want?
It can be an enemy type as well.
There's not a Ganondorf, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, he is missing.
which
Yeah.
version, preferably?
I would say that. I mean, again, I like the Twilight Princess design the best, but I feel like they would have to go with the two that they've already started.
So
If they're like
Ocarina,
going down this path of uh, Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time, they're gonna have to do those two. If I were to pick any Legend of Zelda character, I would pick. Oh, I do not remember her name. Naboru,
Wow.
the sage spirit
from Ocarina.
from Ocarina of Time.
Noboru, yeah.
Yeah, the Gerudo have always been like one of my favorite parts of the Zelda universe. So to have Naboru and having like some sort of Gerudo representation would be quite cool.
Nice. I always like hearing people's answers because there are just so many characters that stick out to people in so many different ways. And like, obviously, we all know that some of them are never going to make the cut, but we can keep on dreaming for our Tingles and Grooses and so on.
We get the Beetle.
Beedle, yeah, he has to
Oh,
have.
Yeah.
that would be sweet.
That'd be a fun one. I would also like to see the Zora, just in general, would be quite cool. I think that there, however, is a lot of opportunity for a really weird-looking minifig. I can see that going really wrong really fast.
The
That would make
Gorons
me
as well,
nervous.
They are hotly debated. Every time we do a
yeah.
Goron, people have opinions, and
Yeah, the Gorons would be really, really tough.
some people want them to roll up
Yeah,
and
'cause-
be able to do the ball thing, like one of those little like toys that like jumps outwards. I'm like,
Oh, like a what are those called back in the day? Like a Bakugan?
yeah, like that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know how that works.
I mean, that'd be fun, but I think that would be like a
Yeah,
full
it's a
new type of
debate
figure.
between. Yeah, the big fig is just too big. Minifigures too small. Brick builds, people are gonna complain. Sadly, kind of like the Robotnik build that was when the ideas was that ideas. Yes, people did. I mean, truthfully, it was bad. That was a poor decision. I do not know what they were thinking with the face there. But same thing kind of applies with the Gorons. I believe it has to be either new mold or something.
Yeah,
People-
and as much as I would love to see it, I don't know if they're going to make a new mold for the Gorons.
Well, they're all
On like
different
set
shapes,
2.
isn't it? It's just-
Yeah.
yeah.
Sadly.
This is the problem. Zelda's too curvy, has all the wrong colours, as just a franchise as a whole. Nothing lines up perfectly at all, at least in
No.
the games. It's great. People also hotly contest moblins. I did not expect so much moblin discourse about whether they should be figures or use the long legs or be brick built or be big figs. I'm like, oh, they're not that bulky.
Yeah. Yeah, like using they're so gangly. They're like goat people.
Yeah.
Like they have like the goat leg. Like the backward. Don't they have a backward leg?
Yeah,
No,
they
they
have
don't.
the fawn legs, but they also have the centaur, but we can't use the centaur. Well, they'd be perfect for
interesting.
Lionels, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a mess, basically. I look
Yeah,
forward
that's-
to all of the drama whenever, well, if it does happen.
Yeah. I hope that the set buys enough or sells enough where we can get, one or two more. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, so that actually is our penultimate and the most important question for me, at least, is what do you see in the future? Is it big set? Do you wish there was a playset theme at all? Or where would you like to see this theme go, either realistically or in your own dreams?
Realistically, I think we will get one more set. I think we will get a Hyrule Castle playset, is what I think we will get.
Playset, interesting. 18 plus or actual playset?
Actual playset.
Playset,
Please.
on its own. Ooh, that's interesting.
I think that they, similar to what they did with the Mario route, where you could get Princess Peach until you got like her castle. I think that they're going to do, if they were to, this would just be my opinion, they would do a very nice playset with so that way you could get Ganondorf. That's what I think. And maybe you could get I forgot his full name, but the king of Hyrule, as like the Hagrid figure.
The Triforce, perhaps, even, yeah.
That's what I think that they would do that.
Interesting.
Part of me thinks that it's a one-off. Unfortunately, part of me thinks that. But I could sometimes you like what were some other one-offs? Minecraft, that started as a one-off. It started as a Lego. Yeah, it started as a Lego Kuso. Sonic. We've had video game themes that have started from a Soul set that did well.
And there are quotes and stuff that port potential, isn't it? The Miyamoto quote from the press release does state that this was the first they wanted to pick, and it's been given its own sub-theme on Lego.com, which usually doesn't happen for one-off sets. Specifically, the Horizon set was dumped in with icons or other, whereas this has its own banner, which could just be a Nintendo thing, but at the same time, unfortunately, realistically, I believe we're stuck in the 18 plus jail, but my dream would be playsets.
Yeah,
Maybe let's see.
I see. What's interesting is that you would want it to go to playsets. I would want it to stay 18 plus.
Ooh, explain.
I want it to stay. I want it to stay big and expensive. I want, which I know is cost prohibitive. I want, in my mind, if they're going to do a Legend of Zelda theme, it's not going to last that long.
Yeah.
I want them to maximize the best sets that they can produce, which means they have to be expensive. I want expensive minifigures. I want molding. I don't want stickers. I want prints. I want the whole thing. I want custom cloth pieces. I want all of it. And to me, the only way that they would dump that much money into it is if it was an 18 series.
Interesting, because we've taken
So-
the same argument is it won't last long, but I took it from the other perspective as I want the variety and the color and the fun, and like the sense of adventure. So I just went smaller and as many figures as possible to cover more of a range, because I thought with 18 plus you'd limit your choices in a sense. But it's interesting. I love hearing different people's takes on it.
Yeah, see, I think I would prefer the 18 because that way you get it. While it is scaled back, you would get the ultimate versions of those things. Like if they did a Hyrule Castle, you would get a really great Ganondorf. You'd probably get a really cool Beast Ganondorf. You would get an Epona probably, because like after you do the thing, then you do the final battle. You would get like an Epona which would be cool. You could do, if they were to do I feel like a Zora one would be a next good option. I feel like Link's Treehouse would just be the same thing as a Deku Tree, so they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But like Zora would be cool. You could get, Prince Sidon, Mifa, the King, whatever. The King, that would be rough.
Would be really bad.
That would be. I hope whoever gets assigned that, best wishes. That would be a rough one. But yeah, if they were to do it, I unfortunately don't think that it would last incredibly long for like a full-fledged like how long Minecraft has ended, where there's more sets than there is game content now, and they're just like making up their own things for fun, which is great. I think it's really, really cool, and they've done a great job with it. It's a really fun theme. I do not foresee that with Lego. I do not think, or with Legend of Zelda. It just doesn't have the numbers. So I would rather them really maximize the budget that they have for that team and make a handful of really incredible sets. That would be my personal preference.
It's a really sound argument. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like what you said, because I mean, from like your channel, your thing that you do is you do, a wide variety of play sets, so that way you can experience the entire scope of what makes the Legend of Zelda. And I think it's, again, a very sound argument that the whole point of that game is that it is an action adventure game. And would you get the true sense of a Legend of Zelda theme if you stayed so central and you didn't get, the scope of enemies and items that you could get from smaller playsets?
A lot of my argument is based around the 2013 logic. Obviously, it's not something the company particularly does anymore, but a huge inspiration for the CSS has been like the Lord of the Rings theme, when you could just get this action theme for a slightly less well-known thing, and it was all about the breadth and getting these characters and scenes, and they valued army building at the same time as all these other different niche outlets, and just taking that inspiration from everything they've done over the last decade and combining it into this. What could they do? It's not about the quality of the models, because I'm not a good builder. It's the concepts, and then bringing those to people, and just seeing, well, what if, what could we see? There's so much there, so much to Zelda. I think that it's so fun.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, this was kind of. I mean, Animal Crossing New Horizons got a second wave, so you never know. Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Time will tell, and it will be an exciting journey, an exciting wait, because that's what we're heading towards now, I suppose, is bated breath until the next one.
I mean, I'll buy it. I said when they announced what's it called, Mario. A buddy of mine, my love for Zelda, his whole thing is Mario. He loves Mario, and he made a comment that like he would buy every single Mario set regardless of how good they were. And I was like, why on earth would you do that? I'm like, if it's a bad set, why would you get it? And he said, well, you would do it for Zelda. I was like, yeah, I would.
No, yeah, I made
I would
myself that
buy.
promise a long time ago.
Yeah,
It was
I would.
just,
Valid.
if they ever do
I
it.
would buy every single one. I don't care how bad it is. I don't care if it's actually sometimes they like they'll have like the junior line and there'll be like one really cool hairpiece. There's a I think it's like a 4+ hairpiece in like a Star Wars set.
I know the
I'm
one you
like, I
mean.
want that hairpiece. Yeah, but it's like sometimes I mean I would buy every single set that they have. Absolutely, and I'd probably buy 2 of them just to have.
Especially if they had figure selections. I'm
Absolutely.
waiting for a Bokoblin or like a Lizalfos or something to be able to get a couple, you know? It'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then I would throw so much money at Bricklink sellers to get extra because I would want multiples, and I would spend so much money. But it would be worth it, and it would make me happy.
It'd be so good.
Yeah, it would be good for the heart.
Yeah, let's hope the scalpers don't go crazy on the prices.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Sometimes things get out of hand, but I mean, I've let them get the best of me more than once, so they'll be able to do it again.
Here to wrap things up,
Right.
very big question, I guess, would be, what does Lego Zelda mean to you? What has it meant throughout this whole time of just fans, weird geeks like ourselves, building Zelda moments out of Lego? What does it mean now with the official set? What's your soul connection to it?
To me, personally, it is connecting 2 of my favorite hobbies and loves, which is I love video games. I love Lego. They're 2 of my favorite things integrating into one. I think that the theme, a Legend of Zelda theme, could speak incredibly to some of the things that they really want out of a Lego set, which is imagination, storytelling, all of those things. You have a great. Some of my favorite themes that have come out of Lego are the ones that have a very specific protagonist that goes on a myriad of adventures, and every theme is a different one, and you have a story through line. I think of like Johnny Thunder is what comes to my mind immediately. To me, it has the potential to be an incredible theme that goes beyond just fans of The Legend of Zelda. It could very easily become a castle theme. Like it's in that time frame. So you're gonna have castle fans love it. You have the potential for, again, a really cool protagonist for storytelling purposes. From a community standpoint, I think that it was a long time coming. I think that it shows that while you might not get the answer immediately, Lego does have an ear to the public and they do know what they're interested in. And no matter how many times you need to tell them, no matter how many office sets show up on Lego Ideas and get told no, at some point, if you want something, if a theme is meant to be, and there are enough people who want to do it, these, at the end of the day, these are companies, these are businesses, and they're in the business of making money. And if you can rally a community of people to showcase a love for something, and you're willing to throw your money at it, then it can happen. I think it kind of puts like a ribbon on something that I have always wanted. As far as a Lego hobbyist, I started the Lego hobby, or my resurgence, because I wanted to bring the world of The Legend of Zelda to life in brick. I wanted to be able to experience it materially outside of a screen. I wanted to have it in front of me. And I now have the opportunity to have incredibly talented designers produce that at an incredible level and have the potential for everything I wanted out of a theme to come to life. And my biggest goals as a Lego hobbyist to get, to come to fruition. And I'm incredibly excited for that. And it allows me to take the assets that come from those sets and make the things that I do as a mock builder even better. So I'm incredibly excited to see what happens with it. I wish the theme the best. I hope it becomes something incredibly expansive and cool, and that a lot of people love it. I hope that it gets a healthy amount of controversy to keep it good, to keep the quality up, but not to discourage the very hardworking people who designed these sets and the elements that come with it. So that's my hope for it.
Oh, everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's exactly what we hope people want from it, and saying some great things about the themes that we all recognise are in both of these IPs together. It's really lovely to hear from people that we aren't talking to regularly. So it's not just an echo chamber. It truly is a match made in heaven, at least in my perspective.
I'm incredibly excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah. So I suppose, no, thank you so much for answering all of our questions and spending some time with us today. Where can people find you? Because I'm sure there'll be some people that either remember your mocks fondly or will want to pop over and check out what you've been up to for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I'm mostly active on my Instagram, which is Faron_Moc, Faron_MOC. Faron being a reference to The Legend of Zelda. Faron lives. So.
Favorite province?
So actually, the reason why I named it, it's not my favorite province. Lenaru is, but the reason why I chose that as my handle is because it is a reference to two of my favorite video game series, The Legend of Zelda, as well as Final Fantasy. The protagonist of Final Fantasy 13, her last name is Faron as well. So, yeah. So my two of my favorite video game series. I know that Final Fantasy 13 is very controversial. It was the first one I ever played, which is why I love it. So yeah, I was like, oh, it's perfect. Two of my favorite video games. It's a name that comes from it. So yep, that's why I picked it. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I build very infrequently, but hopefully some cool things will be coming down the pipeline. I also make appearances on variety of Lego community spaces, so you'll sometimes see me around causing trouble.
Yeah, and those links will be in the description for anyone listening or watching as well. So, thank you so much. It's been really, really great because, I speak for myself at least. I remember seeing the videos as they came out as well, and I've seen you pop up in places as we've gone through, and I've always seen you as this person that I knew wanted this thing to happen for so long. So once I finally found myself in a position to talk about it with people, I'm like, who do I go to? Who do I know that wants this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you both. Thank you for reaching out. It really means a lot.
Yeah, it's been super great to have you here. We had a very great conversation.
Absolutely.